It's that time of year again. The temperatures are starting to drop in the northern hemisphere. And if you live anywhere where you get pretty cold temperatures in the winter, your attention is going to turn to the seasonal tyre swap, where you go from your summer tyres to your winter tyres. And if you live in the Northern Hemisphere, in large parts of Europe, in large parts of the US and Canada, you will be familiar with the concept of using winter tyres to keep you safe and secure on the road when there's significant amounts of ice, when there's poor grip due to leaves on the road, moisture, and all of that stuff. And you want to avoid a crash wherever possible. What you might not know, though, is that the winter tyre is just celebrating its 90th birthday. And the company that invented the winter tyre, Nokian, is holding a massive celebration throughout the month of October. And I'm lucky enough to have Wes Bolling with me, who is from Nokian Tyres North America. And Wes, well, happy birthday to Nokian for the winter tyre.
Thank you. 90 years. Happy to say I haven't been around for all of them. But yeah, dating back to 1934, the invention of the Kelleringus, the first ever winter tire, and the Hakkapeliitta that folks know today was just a couple of years after that. It is quite a milestone.
So Nokian is a Finnish company, so it is no stranger to extreme weather conditions. Tell me a little bit about the birth of Nokian.
Sure. So, funny enough, Nokian Tires actually dates back to before the invention of the winter tire and before we even started making tires. Back in 1898, we were a rubber company. I won't try to pronounce the Finnish pronunciation of it, but the translation is Finnish Rubber Works. And we made soles for boots, and we're specialists in rubber. And at that time, there was virtually no driving well, at all. But then in the 1930s, no driving in winter in a place like Finland. Roads were virtually impassable because people didn't have the tires to keep up. And so we made the first tire in 1934 for trucks to try to improve the transit possibilities to deliver goods to cities who needed them. And the tire, the Kelleringus, was, of course, a hit. And so much of a hit that passengers and drivers of regular cars said, we want these for our vehicles as well. And so the first winter passenger tire was also invented by Nokian Tires just 2 years later in 1936. So I guess we'll be setting our clocks 2 years from now. We'll be celebrating the 90th anniversary of the Hakkapeliitta too.
Winter tires, by their design, are are built to make it easier to grip a layer of snow as you're driving down the road. And that enhances grip. And a lot of people just can't grok that. They go, if there's a layer of snow on my tire, how and why am I gripping better? Tell me how that works.
Sure. So it comes down to two primary factors, and in some cases, three factors. And I'll explain the in some cases in a minute. But your first factor, and maybe your most important, is going to be your tread compound. So the softness of that rubber. The softness of the rubber is able to then stay pliable and responsive to the road in extreme cold temperatures. Many of us know that all season tires really should be called three-season tires. And the reason is that rubber compound, right? It's a harder rubber meant for durability, meant for excellent spring and summer performance, rain performance. But at 45 degrees Fahrenheit, 7 degrees Celsius, even that soon, that rubber starts to harden like a hockey puck. A winter tire, on the other hand, is much, much softer and more pliable. That's why you might hear many people call a non-studded winter tire a friction tire. It's creating more friction with the ground and with the snow. And that soft compound is able to help it more effectively dig through the snow because of the second factor, and that's the tread pattern itself. And so the tread pattern, if you've ever seen the tread of one of our Hakkapeliitta tires, it's curved and it's meant to carve through that snow and slush to maintain contact with the road. The third factor is the in some cases factor, and that's if you're on studded winter tires. And those studs allow the elite ultimate level of winter safety. So if you live in a coastal area or somewhere that gets more ice and hard packed snow than that soft snow and slush, then the studs are going to dig deep into the ice because actually driving on ice itself, ice is not the problem. It's this tiny microscopic layer of water that's on top of the ice that causes all the sliding. And so if you can get past that little microscopic layer of water into the ice itself, you're able to dig. It's a lot like when you go on a hockey rink and you can walk just fine on a hockey rink at the end of a hockey game, but good luck doing it when the Zamboni's just been through, right? It's like that. The studded tires are able to dig deeper beneath that surface. And so it's really, Nikki, a factor first of your compound being extremely soft, which is why you don't want to drive winter tires in summer. Same reason, soft compound's going to get torn up. Perfect in winter, tread pattern that's going to dig and carve through that snow and give you not just the braking and traction, but the lateral movement as well. And then those studs for those extreme winter situations and where they are allowed are even more effective.
Now, in the last 90 years, we've seen so much evolution in terms of winter tyre design. Obviously, you start off with a softer compound rubber. You start off with siping of the tyres to grip more of the road and to give better traction in snow and ice. But over the years, Nokian and some of your rivals have really upped your game in terms of the technology that goes into making winter tires. These days, if you look at the Nokian Hakkapeliitta, the fives that you've got, the 5 SUVs, they have a really clever compound that adjusts according to the outside temperature. They've got crystals in the tire that help kind of grip the surface of the road. Talk to me about some of the kind of how long it takes for your engineering teams to come up with new iterations of the tire. How do you engineer that?
It's an extremely detailed process. So detailed, they don't always tell me every aspect of it. They know I'm the PR guy having the conversations with outside parties. But in all seriousness, the minute we release, say, the Hakkapeliitta R5, which came out a couple winter seasons ago, as soon as that is released, our team is already looking at which improvements it will make and starting to do testing and development for whatever that next one's going to be. We'll pretend it's the R6 for a second, whatever the naming convention will be. They're always evolving and trying to meet the needs and find new ways to expand the triangle, if you will, of tire development. And that triangle is durability, it's rolling resistance, and it's traction. And ultimately, no tire is going to perfectly satisfy all three of those things. But the benefit that we have with winter tires is we can look at that durability, that tread life, and say, all right, these don't come with a tread wear warranty. You want to get as much life out of them as you can. And if you drive them and maintain them correctly, you will. But we can really focus on those other two areas, right? And so technology, like you mentioned, the cryo grip crystals, that was an innovation that debuted, if I'm not mistaken, in our Hakkapeliitta R3. So the previous generation to the R5. Say you want studded tires, but maybe you live in a place, the state like Michigan, or maybe in a city in Canada where parking garages aren't going to allow studded tires. The next best thing you can do is get something that's going to act like studs. And so these Arctic grip crystals are embedded throughout the tread of the tire. You're not going to see them. They're microscopic. There are thousands of them in each tire. And as the tire continues to wear, again, they're evenly distributed throughout this rubber compound to be able to act like de facto studs that are digging in and giving you that winter security. I was driving on an icy parking lot in Denver at a ski resort, not Denver, but outside of Denver up in the Rockies. And I got out of the car and I said, wow, these studded tires were really what they're built to be. And I looked and they weren't studded tires. They were the non-studded tires. The other part of evolution though, and it was really reassuring, right? And maybe I was just the naive Southerner on winter tires, and maybe somebody more discerning could have told the difference. But I've been on a lot of frozen lakes in my time at the company and in icy parking lots. The other piece of technological evolution that comes into play is with our studded tires and the way our studs have evolved in a couple of ways. Number one, now we have stainless steel studs that don't get corroded by the road. It's extremely important. They look nicer, but also, of course, they're that much more effective and that much longer lasting. And depending on where the stud is within the tire, if it's on the shoulder of the tire, it's going to focus on that lateral movement, right? If it's in the center rib of the tire, it's going to be more about that traction, that handling, that acceleration. We've been able to adjust the contours of those studs to make them that much more effective, but also that much more sustainable. There's a cushion where the studs have less impact on the road than they used to. And so some of your followers, viewers, listeners might be thinking, look, studded tires sound great, but I know they chew up roads. I don't want to do that. If that's
Yeah,
your
they do. Yeah.
only, yeah, it's the reputation and it's well earned, honestly, over decades. We've really taken a bite into that. and really tried to make these as sustainable and environmentally friendly as possible by cushioning the blow, if you will, of that stud, where when it's not needed to stick into that ice, it's sucking back up into the tire and cushioning the impact on the road. So a number of technological developments, but what we have to do is we have to continue to lead the industry. We can't just be the inventor. 90 years is great. It's a great legacy. Doesn't mean a hill of beans if we stopped investing a disproportionate amount of our profits back into R&D at the largest company-owned and northernmost tire test facility in the world up north of the Arctic Circle, and that's what we continue to do.
We have been testing Nokian tyres here at the channel for years. I had Hacker R3s on my Nissan Leaf, then on my Chevrolet Bolt. We had the Hacker R5s on our F-150 Lightning, the first one, unfortunately. Talking about, excellent snow grip. I hit sheet ice last year, and unfortunately, even the Nokian Hakkapeliitta R5s couldn't stop me from crashing my truck, and that was not a fun experience. And lots of people were like, well, you should have had studded tyres. And yes, maybe I should have had studded tyres up here in the mountains, but here in Oregon, there are some strict rules about whether you can have studs or not. And, I think one of the things that I've heard people talk about again and again and again is that winter tyres don't mitigate and eliminate the entire risk of having an accident in winter weather, but they increase the likelihood that when things go sideways or you go sideways, you, instead of writing off your vehicle, you might just have a fender bender. Instead of coming completely off the road, well, you might be lucky and be able to stop. Or, when that back end kicks out on a rear wheel drive car, you're able to more confidently put the car back in the right direction. And for many people who live in places where they don't get a lot of snow in the winter, there's definitely some reticence to buy winter tyres, which is where we come into talking about another tyre that Nokian helped pioneer. Instead of the all-season, the all-weather tyre. And earlier this year, you all unveiled a special new tyre for the US. You're calling it the Remedy. We actually have a set on our Chevrolet Bolt EV right now that we're testing. We haven't had a chance to test it in winter weather. We've been testing it through the summer. The grip's been fine. Tell me about the other anniversary that you're celebrating right now, which is the all-weather tyre.
The 25th anniversary of the tire that most Americans and Canadians, research tells us, still don't know exists. And so I guess that is
Right.
job security as a marketer to try to tell that story. Yes, the all-weather tire. So the reason that we named this sixth generation all-weather tire the Remedy is it is meant to be a remedy for year-round driving. Now, if you live in the mountains of Oregon, I will certainly continue to recommend, as you will accept that recommendation, to just stick
Yes.
with the winter tire and switch out.
Yeah.
But I think the all-weather tire is meant for really two types of people in the marketplace. Number one, consumers who might visit winter or have winter visit them. So somebody perhaps who lives in the valley in Bend but goes up to Mount Bachelor regularly,
Right.
or lives in Portland but goes over either of the ranges on either side. And I think that type of person who really doesn't need a winter tire day to day, or at least they're willing to accept that risk. But they do want something that's going to give them that protection when they visit winter. My family is an example. We live in Tennessee, but we have family in Canada. There's no way I'm putting a winter tire on my car in Nashville, Tennessee. But we have all weather
Right.
tires because we do spend about a month, sometimes two, in the winter in Ottawa, Ontario. We're not going to get caught on all season tires in that snow and ice. The other market is the driver who simply insists they don't want 2 sets a year, even if maybe they should have winter tires. They either don't want to or can't make that investment. And we have to meet them where they are and understand that an all-weather tire for them is a very important upgrade over an all-season or a 3-season tire. So we do not sell an all-weather tire necessarily as an alternative to a winter tire. For those who really need that ultra winter protection. Look, it's a compromise solution, but it's a compromise solution that's going to get you a 60 or 65,000 mile tread life with the ability to handle heat, rain, snow, slush, pretty much anything but hardcore ice. If you put that up against a winter tire at our test center in Ivalo, Finland, I think we know what's going to win. It's going to be the king of winter. But if you put it up against an all-season tire, there's really no comparison on the other end as well. It is far better. Having driven these all-weather tires in snow, in some minor ice, and some some cold weather even, because even in cold weather, it's a softer compound that's going to be more effective even on dry roads. So the all-weather tire, yeah, 25 years of making that. Again, most people don't know the difference between all weather and all season, and I don't blame them. The names are so similar. We have our job cut out
Right.
for us, right? And only our research
And
tells
it's
us
even
only
more complicated in
yes.
Europe, right? Because they
Oh
call them
yeah,
different things in Europe. I just wanted
because
to highlight
a
this because we've got
European
viewers in
all-season
Europe.
tire more closely resembles what we call an all-weather here because it has that three-peak mountain snowflake certification. And that's a differentiating emblem and factor that drivers can look for. And you have a really intelligent follower base that likely already knows this, but just to put that out there. So that three-peak mountain snowflake, that's the certification every winter tire is required to have. Our all-weather tires also carry that certification. An all-season tire will not. And you can ignore that M plus S, mud plus snow certification. That basically means the tire is round and made of rubber. So that means absolutely nothing. So that all-weather tire, and when we encourage people, learn a little bit more about them, educate yourselves. Nokiantires.com/weather. We've got a lot of consumer education because that's how we'd like to celebrate this anniversary is by making sure we're spreading awareness for those drivers who really don't need to be on those all-season tires year round.
And it's kind of important because I think a lot of people, especially if you live like in a valley, maybe you live in Central California, you're going up into the Sierras for the holidays, you might have experience driving in snow and you might have experience driving with chains. But focusing now on electric vehicles, so many EVs on the market today actually prohibit the use of traditional tire chains on vehicles. And if you're going over a mountain pass in North America, you'll very often see a sign on the side of the road that says traction tires required or snow chains. And if you're in a really mountainous area where the weather is really bad, you might actually see traction tires and all-wheel drive required. And in the EV world, we've got lots of vehicles coming to market that are all-wheel drive. We've got lots of vehicles coming to market that prohibit the use of traction chains on vehicles. And there's a lot of miscommunication among the general public, sometimes in the EV world as well, as to what you actually need in an EV for good traction in winter, because EVs are heavier, they tend to be a little bit more sure-footed, they're a little bit easier to get power to the road. The side effect of that is that they can sometimes slip more often. If they get stuck in snow, they can sometimes more easily get stuck. But let's talk about the needs of the EV driver who can't put chains on their vehicles. Three-peak mountain tires are very important for those consumers, right?
They are. And I would say even a step beyond that, there's a new emblem that the industry has adopted. And we were, as I understand it, the first to put it on our tires, this ice grip emblem. That's a next level indicator that this is not just a winter suitable tire, but a winter made tire with extreme grip. And it's especially important for EVs, as you said, because we know that all wheel drive is not all wheel stop. And that as a vehicle gets that significant momentum, you need to be able to counteract that, especially a heavier EV with tires that are grippy and that are prepared. So we've made dedicated EV winter tires for that purpose. Now, every tire we make, winter or otherwise, the latest generation, it comes with this electric fit emblem that means it's been tested for years on EVs and it's suitable for EVs. But if you live in a wintry area or you visit these wintry areas, it is vital to have something that's going to counteract the weight of the vehicle. So something that's got a strong, sturdy tire structure. It's built and constructed just a little bit different to be able to handle the added weight while still maintaining that soft grip on the road. And that's a delicate line to walk that we strive to walk. But also we talk about things like noise, like torque, like range. We built a little handy acronym. W is the weight, noise, torque, range. That's winter, WNTR, to help people remember it. Because those EVs are also noisier. And this may not be a crucial safety issue, but it might be a sanity issue. When the only sound that
Right.
you're hearing driving that car is the loud tires on the snow or on the ice. We have acoustic foam inside our EV dedicated tires, the Hakkapeliitta R5 EV and 10 EV, that's going to eat up that sound at the decibels that are most irksome to drivers in the cabin. So that if you're buying an EV for the silent driving experience, we don't ruin that by having loud tires in winter. That torque is extremely important. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
And you also have reinforced the sidewalls of the tires, right? So to deal with the extra weight of your battery pack and things like that.
That's right. So we have aramid in the sidewalls of those tires as well. So aramid is better known by its trademarked name of Kevlar. So it's used in bulletproof vests in the aerospace industry. Don't shoot at your tires, please. But it's meant to give reinforcement that's still extremely lightweight and puncture resistant. So yes, it does decrease the likelihood that if you hit an obstacle on the road, that sidewall is going to burst, which is usually what happens when you have a blowout. It's not the tread, it's the sidewall that is a problem. And that reinforcement also helps with torque, right? With the expanded torque and the getting power to the engine faster. Again, you want to be able to accelerate well and quickly with grip still applied. I've driven and accelerated a Tesla on a completely iced over lake in Georgetown, Colorado. All roads lead back to Colorado in this chat, I guess. But beautiful vista. Couldn't even walk on the surface. It was a disaster for this southerner here, even in my boots. But the tires were very sure-footed, especially on that heavy EV. Acceleration was strong. We compared that to an all-season tire, and let's just say there was a lovely family walking on the ice about 100 feet away, and I was afraid I was going to skid all the way to them. There were no close calls, but for a moment there was fear. But then there's that range as well in winter, and this is where, a lot of drivers get concerned that winter is going to decrease the range of their EVs, and cold weather can certainly have an impact. What we do is we build these winter tires to also have extremely low rolling resistance, so they can be energy efficient. And so for an internal combustion engine driver, that also means lower emissions. Of course, for an EV driver, that means that predictable range. We don't want to be the reason that an EV is getting lower range in winter and perhaps getting someone stranded or leading to a hassle of having to charge sooner than you think. Predictability is as key as anything with an EV, right? Range anxiety is real, and we want to make sure that we are equipping drivers to maximize their range per charge.
Now, there's a big change in the EV industry right now. We're seeing lots of heavier SUVs, pickup trucks. And if you look at the kind of winter tires that you were making for EVs 10 years ago versus the kind of EVs that are demanding winter tires now, it's a big change, right? We're now seeing people who want to go off-road in their EVs. Maybe they've got a Hummer EV, maybe they've got like a Rivian R1T or an R1S or maybe a Tesla Cybertruck. What challenges are there for building basically massive tires for off-road capable full-size SUVs and pickup trucks?
Yeah, the stakes are even higher, and the challenge is even tougher when we go back to walking that tightrope of a tire that's going to be extremely strong and sturdy, but also light on the road for traction and for rolling resistance purposes. It's walking that balance again, that triangle of development, because then your durability question does come into play as well, and you've got to have great grip in responsiveness to the road, but also great rolling resistance and great durability. And so what we have to do then, instead of trying to meet the perfect spot on that triangle, we have to expand the triangle with new technology and with more rigorous testing than ever. And so that's what we have to work to do. It also becomes a bit of a production challenge as well. We're growing production in North America, but our winter tires will always come, or at least have always come, from our Finland factory in Nokia, where demand is higher globally for our tires than ever before. And so, when you're necessarily adding those sizes to meet the needs of an F-150 Lightning driver or Rivian driver, you have to make those trade-offs and understand where you're going to be sacrificing production for others. And so that's a line to walk that means that we'll probably never be as quick to ramp up those sizes as we'd like to be, but we're there and we're in that space and we're continuing to grow in that space as we seek to meet that challenge of expanding the triangle and making this a more durable tire without then sacrificing the most important characteristics, of course, which are that responsiveness to the road and the ability to stop when you need to.
And you've been playing in the last couple of years with options for those kind of vehicles. You've now got your Outpost NAT tires that are not winter tires. They are all weather tires. So they're not going to have the same kind of grip as your dedicated non-studded or studded winter tires, but they're kind of the equivalent of an all-weather tire that can also go off-road, right?
That's exactly right. They have the three-peak Mountain Snowflake. They can get you where you need to go through snow. But I've driven them, off-road in a number of situations that I honestly would not have otherwise been comfortable in. The back roads of western Idaho and then over near the Sawtooth Mountains, pretty gnarly conditions, and they're quite effective and a really good option. And those tires, many of them are reinforced beneath the tread as well with that aramid fiber. So not only are they puncture resistant on the sidewalls, but also on the tread, because we know that when you're driving in those off-road scenarios, you're going to go over stones and rocks and jagged boulders and things like that. So we want to give that full capability, that full strength. And I laugh. You may remember, you may not. There was a commercial a few years ago during the Super Bowl with Will Ferrell talking about electric vehicles,
Hmm.
and the U.S. was taunting Norway and saying, "You're not going to be number one per
Yeah.
capita in EVs
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
long." They probably are, by the way, but we're trying to catch up. And we joked and we made our own commercial, if you will. Now that would be our marketing budget five years over for one 30-second spot if we actually put it out. We put it on YouTube and on social media, and we said, hey, Norway may be number one in EVs, but we're the Scandinavian company, right? We're down the street from Norway. We've been ready for those EVs for years now because that's our backyard. And in Finland, the per
Right.
capita EV, adoption is almost what it is in Norway, Sweden, Denmark, that whole area. And so we've been testing these tires on EVs dating back to 2010, 2011. We set world records, fastest EV on ice back in 2012. So whether it's, an all-terrain tire like the Outpost, whether it's a pure winter tire, when we say that we have this electric fit emblem and everything we make is made with EVs in mind, that's not just branding to try to cover our behinds. That's a testament to almost 15 years of testing and collaboration with EV makers. And we have calls with Rivian. Maybe I shouldn't share that, but we're on the phone with Rivian, even though we don't make original equipment tires. We don't put them on at the site of
Right.
manufacture for anybody except for like our ag stuff. We're talking to these people and we're testing on these cars so that when the consumer comes in and is ready for that next tire purchase, dealers are able to tell that story effectively, that we have those partnerships and we are electric fit.
So, in closing, let's talk about some general advice for viewers who maybe have an EV and are considering getting some new shoes for winter, whether that is dedicated winter tire, whether that is a new set of tires that they're going to keep on all year round that are all weather. How do you go about choosing the right tire for you? And also, how do you keep those tires healthy and ensure that they have a long life?
Absolutely. So the first thing that you can do, there are a couple of one in particular objective standard that you can find if you're looking for a pure winter tire. And I mentioned a few moments ago, it's a relatively new industry standard called the Ice Grip emblem. It was developed in 2021. Again, I believe we were the first to adopt it. I believe others may have as well. This is an objective
Hmm.
standard agreed upon by the International Standardization Organization, ISO, of testing that says that this tire is 18% more effective on ice than a standard reference winter tire. In other words, this is a hardcore tire that is ready to meet winter demands. That's if you're an EV driver or an internal combustion engine driver. That's the first place that you should start. Does this tire have that emblem that certifies that this is not just a snowflake tire? This is a hardcore, honest to goodness winter tire. From there, I think your question then becomes studded versus non-studded. Are studded tires allowed where you are? Do you live in a place like the mountains or somewhere that's going to get a lot of ice and a hard packed snow? Studded's the way to go. Do you live in a city? Do you live in a place that has restrictions? Again, the right non-studded tire can be almost as effective, and you may not be able, as I couldn't, to tell the difference. And then finally, look at history, not just a company that's been around 90 years, not that I'm biased, but also, how is this company played in the EV space? We have dedicated EV winter tires, but we also have that electric fit emblem across our spectrum that says, again, that we've been working with EV manufacturers for a long time to try to meet the needs of those drivers. I can tell you all day long to find a tire that meets those four winter criteria: weight, noise, torque, and range. But ultimately, beauty's in the eye of the beholder there, and tires can be a subjective experience. But I would recommend first looking for that ice grip emblem. That's going to be a subjective, or sorry, an objective marker, not a subjective, an objective marker of that quality. If you can't find that, find a snowflake tire, and then research the history of working with EVs. And I think you'll find, again, that Nokian Tyres stands out. There are others who do a great job of making a great winter tire. Nobody's been doing it longer than us. And if you're looking to save a little money and all things are equal, we have a rebate going on right now as well through the end of
Yes.
October. So just a little bit longer for you guys to cash in on that at participating US dealers, just a US only rebate for about $80 off, not 80%. That'd be real nice. $80 off a set of winter tires to help maybe sweeten that pot just a little bit.
And in terms of storage and keeping the tires healthy, there's nothing special that you need to do, right?
Rotate regularly with a winter tire, more regularly even than you would. I think, the standard recommendation might be 5,000 to 7,000 miles for a standard pair of tires. I'd go 2,000 to 4,000, 3,000 to 5,000 miles for that winter tire. It's a softer compound. It's going to be more sensitive to wear and to changes in the road, especially if you're not driving in nonstop snow. If it's just cold and a little bit dry, you want to make sure you rotate more frequently. In terms of storing those tires when you're not using them, if your tire dealer has the ability to store them themselves, that's a service that is offered and very appreciated in many places. Take advantage because they're prepared to store them in the right spot. Obviously, don't want to put them out in the sun when you're storing them. Put them in a shaded spot in your garage where you have room to make sure that they're going to be well taken care of, and then store them on their sides if you can, instead of storing them where they're standing up. That way, they're not going to get that worn spot that gravity will cause if it's for a day or two, whatever. If you're just doing a quick little rotation, fine. But if you're storing them for months at a time, I think that's another tip that I would recommend.
Fantastic. Wes, thanks so much. Happy anniversary to Nokian, and hopefully I'm looking forward to testing out the remedies in some snow in the not too distant future. Thanks for joining me today, and if you've got some thoughts, make sure you leave them in our Discord chat room, our Patreon page, or you can reach out to us on Mastodon. Thanks to the amazing list of people scrolling by on your screen right now. They are some of the more than 1,500 people who help fund this channel through Patreon and YouTube, covering our bills, paying our team, and making sure that we can remain 100% independent. If you'd like to join them and see your name listed here, just follow the links below. There are a range of different tiers that you can sign up for, from as little as $1 a month, or if you pay yearly, just over $10 a year. A huge welcome to our newest supporters: Alan Brim, Jim, Sarah Horlock, full name, Todd Johnson, Roderick, Stuart Despain, Rupert Ronson, Larry Phoenix, Darla, Wendy Kelly Bundenbaum, and Kay. To join the list and get your shout out, become a paid Patreon member for your moment of fame. If you'd like to support us with a one-off donation, you'll also find links below to make Ko-fi and Bitcoin donations, and we even have a good old-fashioned PO box you can reach us at, address also linked below. And of course, if you're in need of some swag, you'll find our swag store in the down below. Don't forget that Halloween is coming, and we've got some great designs for the season. We've also got some great content coming up, so make sure you're subscribed on PeerTube or YouTube, and we'll see you soon. We make new videos every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. If you want more, the mighty algorithm thinks you'll like this video, but we also think this one is well worth a look. See you soon, and as always, keep evolving.